To be honest with you guys, we've kind of had a little rough start to the beginning of this week. I saw that Marceau went live yesterday, and he's sitting over there gloating and everything about some of the notoriety that he's gained because of the fight that happened on Love and Marriage Huntsville over the weekend. Even though it was kind of embarrassing, I wanted to be very clear about what actually happened during that fight and the events that led up to it. There's a lot that you guys didn't see. However, in the moment that I acted, I was acting to protect the situation, protect my brother from further harm. And what I will tell you is I wanted to really protect Dr. Adara Collins' work because Martell was going to slap the teeth out of his mouth.
Maurice Scott has always been the guy at the heart of all the drama on the show. He's known for being a savvy businessman and a family man, building a solid rep as a devoted husband, dad, and entrepreneur.
For years, Maurice Scott's name has been connected to success, family, television, and controversy. But then one legal situation threatened to change everything. Suddenly, the man many viewers knew from Love and Marriage Huntsville was facing questions about his judgment, his reputation, and what could happen next. People were talking, fans were choosing sides, critics were demanding answers. And just when it looked like the story might follow Maurice for years, something happened that almost nobody expected. The case took a dramatic turn. Charges that had...
Maurice Scott, you know better than to drink and drive. And you a lawyer? You definitely know not to do that, but you got arrested. You see it in the back, y'all. And I said, oh, good luck.
Something happened that almost nobody expected. The case took a dramatic turn. Charges that had put Maurice under intense public pressure were dropped, leaving many people asking the same question. How did everything go from an arrest and serious allegations to a complete legal victory? And more importantly, what does this really mean for Maurice Scott, his family, his career, and the image he had spent years building? Because sometimes the biggest shock isn't the accusation. It's what happens after the accusation. Maurice Scott has spent years building a public identity around business, family, marriage, and reality television. To fans of Love and Marriage Huntsville, he wasn't just another reality star. He was part of a larger story involving relationships, friendships, business deals, family pressure, and the complicated world of Huntsville's social scene. That public image mattered. Maurice had built a reputation as someone who wanted to be successful and provide for his family. He had businesses, television exposure, and a growing audience watching his every move. Then came the legal trouble. According to the accounts surrounding the case, Maurice was stopped in Huntsville after officers suspected he had been driving erratically. What followed quickly became much bigger than a traffic stop. He was accused of driving under the influence. And once the allegation became public, everything changed. A private legal situation suddenly became entertainment news. People who had watched Maurice on television began looking at old clips differently. Social media started filling with opinions. Some people defended him immediately. Others believed the accusation proved there was more to his story. The pressure was intense, and Maurice now had something much bigger to fight than a court case. He had his reputation to protect. At first, the story seemed simple from the outside. An arrest? A charge? A bond? A courtroom battle.
But the deeper the legal process went, the more complicated the situation became. Maurice was reportedly released on a $5,000 bond, but the financial number wasn't the biggest issue. The real cost was the attention. Every headline brought more questions. Every social media discussion brought more speculation. And every public appearance carried the possibility that someone would ask about the case. For a reality television personality, that kind of pressure can become overwhelming. Because when your life is already being filmed, the public doesn't always separate what they see on television from what happens in real life. But here's where the story gets interesting. Maurice's legal team didn't simply sit back and wait. They challenged the case. And their argument focused heavily on the strength and reliability of the evidence. Questions were raised about the testing equipment and whether the evidence could be trusted. Questions were also raised about the field sobriety testing and whether the results were enough to prove impairment. Then there were questions surrounding the circumstances of the arrest itself.
And that changed the conversation. Suddenly, the story wasn't simply about whether Maurice had been accused. It became about whether the prosecution could actually prove its case. That distinction is extremely important. An accusation can spread across social media in minutes. Proving an accusation in court is a completely different matter. And Maurice's legal team understood that. They began attacking the weaknesses in the prosecution's case. The goal was clear. Don't fight the noise, fight the evidence. For weeks, the public had already been debating Maurice's guilt or innocence. But inside the legal system, opinions on social media didn't matter.
Evidence mattered. Procedure mattered. Proof mattered. And the prosecution had to meet its burden. That's when the case started looking very different. What nobody expected was how quickly the legal situation would begin to collapse. Maurice's attorneys argued that the evidence wasn't strong enough to support the charges. They questioned the reliability of testing. They pointed to inconsistencies and procedural concerns. The more those questions were examined, the more difficult the prosecution's position appeared to become. Still, Maurice wasn't automatically safe. A legal challenge doesn't guarantee victory. A motion doesn't erase an accusation. And public opinion certainly doesn't disappear overnight. So the pressure remained. Imagine having your name discussed by thousands of people while your legal team is fighting behind the scenes to protect your future. Imagine seeing strangers debate your character without knowing everything that happened. And imagine knowing that one unresolved case could affect your family, your business, your television career.
I've been around Martell and her. I didn't see their interactions. So I didn't see she makes me feel this way or whatever, right? In that situation, I told Martell, bro, this is not it. Going forward, I'm not leaving a party because somebody's cheating. No, I'm not.
So do you come home and then call the person that's getting cheated on?
No, you'll never hear me call somebody and say, hey man, or hey lady, your guy's cheating on you.
I don't disagree. I'm not saying that you would.
Okay.
What I am saying is that you don't sit and be complicit in it as far as finishing out the evening. Because I wouldn't want the person that I'm friends with to think that I think this is okay. Even after the words come out of my mouth, your actions speak louder than words.
I believe that actions speak louder than words as well. And I don't know how many phone calls I've had with Melody and Martell about their situation.
I hear what you're saying, and it doesn't change my opinion.
Yeah, we're at an impasse.
For years, that was the situation Maurice found himself in. But then came the moment that changed the entire story. The prosecution made a move that shocked many people. Instead of continuing to push forward with the case, prosecutors moved to dismiss the...
In a moment like this, I think that lesson learned.
Yes, but you can know something, but hearing it from somebody else make it probably hit a little different.
You think somehow me going to talk to him about something is going to be a wake-up call? I think it's a tough situation to even be suspected of a DUI. If that's not enough to make a grown, intelligent, valedictorian attorney look at his life and say, I need to make better decisions, then I just don't have the words to express it. I know my brother.
Okay.
So I'll do what I think is best because I know my brother.
Great. Prosecutors moved to dismiss the charges. That was the turning point. Think about what that meant. A case that had created so much public discussion was suddenly coming to an end. The legal battle that had threatened Maurice's reputation was no longer moving toward the courtroom showdown many people expected. The prosecution's decision suggested that there were serious problems with the case. And for Maurice, the relief must have been enormous. Because this wasn't just about avoiding a conviction. It was about finally being able to breathe again. The bond was returned.
Court-related financial pressure was lifted, and the charges were no longer hanging over him. For someone who had spent weeks or months dealing with public judgment, that kind of outcome could feel almost unreal. But there was another side to the story. Not everyone celebrated.
Some people questioned the circumstances surrounding the dismissal. They wondered whether Maurice's status, connections, or public profile